Hi, everyone, and welcome to the You Will Be Okay podcast. I am so excited about today's guest. She is a friend and mentor, and she is so inspiring. Jackie Glaser is a dating and relationship coach with a background in psychology and leadership development. She previously ran a private practice in Sydney, Australia, and served as the resident psychologist on The Today Show. After years of navigating the challenges of dating herself, Jackie found love and now dedicates her work to helping other single women overcome fears, remove emotional blocks, and open themselves to healthy, lasting relationships. She's the founder of The Inner Circle, a holistic initiative that provides singles with expert support, including coaching, therapy, personal styling, and matchmaking to help them find their ideal partner. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I am so excited to have you. I've been looking forward to this for so long. Okay, we got to start off strong, right? You got married at 44 and became a mother at 50. What was the most unexpected lesson you learned about love and relationships along the way?
About love and relationships, that you can't control them.
That you can control them.
You can't control them. You can't control your fate. We have a lot more power than we realize sometimes in how we show up. And that affects our life for sure. But you can't make something happen if it's not part of a bigger plan. I mean, it's a spiritual frame, I guess, but like that life unfolds,
Right.
and that you are responsible for what you bring to a relationship, but you're also surrendered in what comes to you.
Right.
There's a balance there, and I think that people either play one side or the other. They're either a victim, they have no power, which is absolutely not true. If anyone's a coach, right, we know that's not true because we coach all the time. And how when you internally shift, it can change your whole life, which it can. But at the same time, there's other people who will try to control and strategize and make things happen, and then it just doesn't happen the way they want it to, and they don't know why, right? So there's an element of that balance. I think that having to wait so long gave me that sense of acceptance for our process and growth and what is.
Right. Right. Like that's
Pretty
one
deep, I
of
know. Deep for a morning podcast.
the So you talk a lot about being stuck in what you call the dating hamster wheel, which I love that phrasing. What was the key mindset shift that helped you break out of that? Because it feels like despair. They've done studies on this with the
Yeah.
rats, like the rats in the cages, and they press the button and then nothing's coming, and they press the button and nothing's coming, and then they fall into complete depression and then they die. So like, how did you cope with that?
Yeah. The dating hamster wheel. I think that's where you have to look inside and say, are there any patterns that I'm doing that are creating this wheel? Which there obviously are, because you're 50% of any dynamic.
Right.
So again, people either do this too much and blame themselves, or they don't do this enough typically. So for me, my pattern that shifted everything was stopping to judge myself. I was very judgmental on myself, which I think a lot of people will resonate with.
Yeah.
Right? That we were so judgmental. I was so judgmental. What was I judgmental about? I was judgmental that because I was single, I was a failure.
Yeah.
I had a very high profile career. My career was peaking. I was super successful, and I just couldn't get it together in my personal life.
Right.
So I felt like a loser. I felt deep down because I didn't want to be in that position. I wanted to be in a relationship, and I couldn't make it happen, right? I couldn't make it happen. So therefore, I'm a failure. And what I didn't realize, which I think your followers will really appreciate, is that me not being in a relationship really triggered a deeper wound of my I'm not good enough wound. I'm not lovable wound. I'm not worthy wound, right? So a lot of people this day and age have that wound. It's a very common wound to have. And what happens when we get rejected from a relationship, or when we're single and you can't find the right person, it kind of subconsciously aligns and feeds into that wound. And then that wound floods you with feelings of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable. That's the hamster wheel, that's the despair.
Yeah.
And that hamster wheel becomes like a typical pattern that we feel all the time. But the positive side of that is I believe that that's a mirror back to what we need to work on. So it's actually, if you take it as a hint or a pointer in the right direction, it's like, oh, that's what I need to work on. Because when you're not in a relationship or someone rejects you, it's not always about you at all.
Most of the time it's not. This is what most people don't understand.
Exactly. We take rejection personally because it conflates with that wound, with that subconscious not worthy wound. And that's a hint that you have to heal that wound actually in order to have a healthy relationship. And what happened for me was an epiphany moment where I decided I had a realization. Had one of those rare moments of honesty with myself, and I was like, why can't I accept my life? Like, why not accept and not do anything about it, but why can't I be okay with things and just let myself, grow and keep moving forward? Why did I feel so broken? Why did I feel so despairing? Because I knew as a psychologist that that's not good, that's not healthy, and it's not accurate. It's not accurate to put all your eggs in the relationship basket and feel like a complete loser and feel despair. That's not healthy, and I knew that. So I was like, what is it? Like, I kind of opened up the Pandora's box inside and was like, what is going on? And what came back was, because you're judging yourself for being there. That's the problem. It's not just that you're there, it's you're judging yourself for being there. And how we respond to ourselves can literally make or break us, regardless of circumstance. How we respond to ourselves. So the whole way I work with clients, and I'm sure you do too, is to approach yourself with compassionate curiosity.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that interesting that I have this pattern? And so when I realized I was the one judging myself, and I'm spiritual, so I said I was judging myself, and then I was blaming God for it. Like, how could you do this to me, God? How could you leave me like this, right? Yeah. Even with or without God in the picture, I was judging myself, and I decided there and then I'm not going to do that anymore. Like, that was it. Like, I was like, that's it. Even if I'm never, God forbid, married ever, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not judging myself. I'm good enough as it is, as I am, and I'm going to make the best with what I have. Like, that was like a clear internal decision. And I really shifted into acceptance, which sounds obvious when I'm saying it now, but it was a very deep connected shift. And the next day, I kid you not, my husband was suggested through a mutual friend.
That's crazy. That is wild.
Literally crazy. And it showed me so much about how we show up to something and how we show up to life is much more powerful than anything you could possibly do or try to control.
Yeah, yes. And I see mirrors and parallels of exactly what you said all the time. For example, people say like the best way to get a job is to have a job, because once you are not like so desperate and focusing and I need this particular job or it means something about me. I see with my clients all the time, the ones who shift the fastest, it's because they surrendered. They detached.
Yes.
They stopped thinking about what does it mean about me that I'm this age and I'm still single, and or I've never had a boyfriend. I see this a lot with some of my clients who are in their 30s and they're mortified by the fact that they've never even been in a serious relationship before. And they are just so ashamed. They think something's wrong with them. Or the ones who've had nothing but failed relationships. We always find a way to feel shame and to dig into that pre-existing belief of I'm not good enough.
And if we want to go spiritual, because you mentioned surrender, and I know a lot of people believe in surrender and let go, let God and all that, the shift from narrowness, scarcity, there's not enough kind of mindset into, which is what happens when you get a job or when you have any kind of thing, into a place of acceptance, which is a place of abundance, is an expansion. And that's why things can flow in more from again, it's more Kabbalistic, but the idea is that, and you see this all the time when there's a couple and they can't have children and they're trying and trying and trying for so long, and then finally they accept that they can't have kids and they go to adopt and they start the process of adoption. They get pregnant naturally. That's happened so many times. Like, it's
I know. Yeah.
What is that? Why is it that the biology didn't work before and now it does? It's not that suddenly the biology changed. What changed is that's how powerful the mindset is. That you can have the same biology and it not work, so to speak. And then when you shift your mindset, it suddenly works. Like, what? After so many years of trying? Because the trying and the grasping is very narrow and it actually pushes things away from us.
Yes. And that's what people really need to realize, is that as much as we feel like the sky is going to fall unless we're personally holding it up, it just doesn't work that way. We have our area that is under our control. And fine, we can own that. When it comes to dating, we can work on looking our best, on feeling our best, on working through our wounds. I tell my clients, I'm like, read 7 Principles of Making a Marriage Work by, John, so that you're ready when you are in a marriage, so that you'll be ready. Prepare yourself as much as you can, and then you'd have to surrender. You don't know when it's going to happen.
And that's when you asked me at the beginning of of today, like, what did you learn? That's what I learned, is like the part that I'm in control of, which is how I show up, and the part I'm not, which is when I surrender. And it's that balance of effort and trying and then letting go and surrender that I think it's all of our struggle to work that out throughout the whole of our life. And we get tested in many arenas, not just this arena of love. But it just hurts the most with love in a way because it's so personal and so to the heart. But with a job, yes, and with health, because health is essential. And if you don't have your health, it's scary, right? So that's a different test, but it's all the same test if you look underneath the surface. And I guess that's my passion in my work, which is getting to the root of things and looking through the spiritual frame, because I see that as much more powerful in affecting change. When we work with those concepts underneath the strategy, you know, if you work with those concepts underneath, it's a little bit like going behind the veil of reality, a little bit of like how the spiritual mechanisms work for our inner state and how that creates our reality, rather than people focus on tips and strategies, which are not wrong. They're just not so powerful if you're not working on the root of it behind.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So for all those years that you were dating, I imagine you dated a lot of guys. How did you keep your, I guess, attitude positive, optimistic? Like by the time you showed up on the date with your husband, were you like, oh, here we go again? Or were you like, maybe this could be it? How was your mindset during all those years of dating?
So I think there's not one mindset. It's often that these tests, when we don't get what we want, are tests. I believe they're spiritual tests to actualize our potential that are happening for a reason. That you're not a loser. You're not just left alone just because you're an idiot. That you're there for a reason. It's by design to help you actualize your potential. That's my frame of operating. It's not everyone's frame of operating, but that is mine. And because of that, wrestling in the darkness, wrestling when you're not getting what you want, when I wasn't getting relationships, that built me in a way. It built me. So trying and being hopeful and then falling in despair and giving up and then sort of blaming God and being bitter and then coming back from that and saying that's not it either, and then trying again and saying, okay, now this time it's going to be different, and then trying something different, and then maybe working on myself internally a little bit, and then this whole flow of all these things is like what I call wrestling in the dark or wrestling in the mud, and it's that wrestling that builds you, which you don't realize at the time. It does not feel good and you don't want it, but it really builds you. It built me. And I think that that's really important for everyone to hear. It's not like, oh, do this and get into this mindset and boom, you're going to be great. Like I did that many, many times. And I had periods where I was in a positive mindset. And then I had periods where I was in a dark, bleak mindset. And I was kind of wading through the swamp. And I didn't want to go out. And I was bitter and cynical. And I didn't want to go on a date and whatever. By the time I met my husband, firstly, I knew his brother. So it piqued my interest. And secondly, he really was cute. So I was kind of looking forward to meeting him. And we had so much in common. Our paths aligned, and then it became freaky because as we got to know each other, we realized that our pathways to spirituality and growth and the careers we were in were very aligned and very similar. And it was like, woo, a bit like Twilight Zone weird. And we also had a great first date. Like we were at Mike's Bistro in New York City, and we were there till after closing. Like we were just talking nonstop. We had a great first date, terrible second date, which is interesting. But we knew very early on that we were right for each other because it was the right time. But up until then, I had so many one and dones, so many painful experiences, so many like there's no one there for me. And the biggest thing I think that people do, and I did a lot, is they assume because it hasn't happened until now, they project it into the future, therefore it's not going to happen.
Extrapolation, my favorite word, where we project our current circumstances into the future.
And just think that's the proof that it's not going to happen, which is not.
Because that's what the brain likes to do. The brain likes predictability. So it looks at the past and it says, oh, Jackie, you've been single 44 years. Like, that's just always going to be this way.
So that's the control piece, right? Like, I like to be in control.
Right.
So
I like to know what's going to happen next.
Correct. So and that's what I was learning is like, no, we're not in control. And you have no idea what's coming down for you, like the next day, the next week, the next month. You don't know. You just don't know. You can only look at what I've done up until now. What are my patterns? What are the holes I keep falling in, or the hamster wheels, whichever metaphor we want to go with? And then what do I need to shift to get out of that hamster wheel? We can't play victim. Playing victim is deadly. So if you ask me one thing that I would say don't do, it's like you are not a victim. You can't control everything, but you're not a victim, because how you show up to your life determines how you feel and determines also what comes to you. You can't control exactly what comes to you, but you will have a life of blessing and abundance if you shift into a place of gratitude and positivity. and real positivity, not pretend positivity, not toxic positivity, but like you will have a different life versus if you just focus on the negative and how bad you are, like and being judgmental. Like
Yeah.
there's no question. You just can't control how things are going to come and what they're going to look like and when they're going to come, and you can't control all that stuff because that is, I believe, up to higher power. So, but that higher power wants us to be partners in life with him, with God, with whoever you want to call it, higher power. So I'm responsible for the vessel, so to speak, that I show up with, meaning how I show up. And that means at a subconscious level, which is, again, my focus of my work is subconscious, because the conscious mind only controls 20% of our reactions and responses. So you go to a good therapist, a well-meaning, insightful, lovely therapist who does talk therapy, which is the majority of American therapists.
Right.
And you get wonderful people, a lot of support. You get a place to vent and a place for you to go, which is for a lot of people a lot, because we don't have that today.
Yeah.
And you get insight. And you get insight about dynamics and analysis and where it comes from and what's going on and why I'm like this and because my mom did this and because da-da-da-da. Very interesting and very useful to some degree. Right. But that's it. Majority of my people that I work with say, Jackie, I did therapy. I know why I've got my issues. I know where they came from and I know what's causing them. I just can't change how I feel. I can't change that I feel unworthy, not good enough. I can't change it. Why? I know so much about my issues. And that's because it's at the subconscious level, which is 80% of our.
Right. So how do you get it out of there? How do you get it from the subconscious to the conscious so you can deal with it?
So I've devised a method, which I have, but I'm saying, but the way I do it with my people is I work through the body. I trained in somatic psychotherapy after I was a psychologist, because I had such an epiphany. People want to hear a little bit about my story and how I came to it. I had major anxiety in my 20s. Out of nowhere. I just suddenly had anxiety. It was weird. Like I didn't have anxiety. And then one year, I don't know if it was like 25, 24, 20. I was practicing already as a psychologist. And I was 24, 25, and I started having such crippling anxiety that I had insomnia, which I'd never had before in my life. For about a year, I had it. It was so bizarre. And I knew enough as a psychologist to know this is really serious, this is really intense. And I decided to go and do a personal development workshop that had a lot of somatic component in it. And in Australia, at the time I was in Sydney, Australia. And in there, I was a little bit very skeptical, very cynical of this whole thing. I thought it was all hoomy-goomy. I was not that hippie crunchy type at all.
Right.
And I went and did it, but they were saying, no, this is somatic psychotherapy. There was some somatic exercises. And in there, I had a major release when I did this specific exercise that unlocked grief from my body. My father had died at 17. I thought I had grieved it.
Yeah.
I thought I had grieved it because I knew about grief and I knew about loss, and I let myself cry and I thought I had grieved it. But obviously the grief was so strong that I couldn't handle all of it, and subconsciously part of my body had been used as a storing place for some of that grief, which I didn't know, and it was giving me anxiety as a signal for what's going on in a deeper way. Right, and that's really how I treat anxiety now, is as a signal. Now, it doesn't mean you don't go to doctors and get anti-anxiety meds. Of course you should. That's what they're there for. They're there to help. They're wonderful. We still go to doctors, but it usually doesn't cure you. It's usually like a support or a crutch. It maybe helps the symptoms, but it doesn't uproot the root of it, is my experience. So when I went to this workshop, I had this exercise where I had this primitive cry that came out. This really deep howl. They supported me, these people there. They said, let it out, let it out, let it out. I was a bit scared of it, and I let myself in a moment cry from my gut, like a really deep, wrenching cry. And that night, and again, I kid you not, and I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating, that night, my anxiety was gone. I was relatively calm. I did not have insomnia, and it never came back. And I went, what the heck was that? What was that? I'm a psychologist. I didn't even know what this is. I said, I have to study more about this. I have to learn. So I went into somatic psychotherapy to understand how the body stores unresolved stuff from the subconscious and expresses it to you. It communicates to you through the body, through sensations, through feelings, and through ailments or disorders, right? Like, it all goes together. The physiology and the physical overlay the emotional. They go together. So it's not like one versus the other. It's not like things are only emotional and not physical. They go together. So we treat in Western society mostly just the physical. Now medicine is opening up to stress related illnesses.
Right.
Stress related meaning like, oh, there's ulcers and there's chronic backache and there's migraines and there's IBS and all the oh, it's all stress related. So with a broad brushstroke, the medical world will acknowledge that is stress does count. But from a psychological point of view, stress is multi-layered and emotional, right?
Yeah.
There's emotional layering to that stress, and we can actually decode and debunk and open up and help you process that emotion so that it doesn't just be one broad brushstroke called stress, and that you can have a huge effect and impact on your health, both mental and emotional and physical.
Ah, this is hitting me so hard. And this is the beauty really of social media, that people like you can get out there and talk about these things. Because I went through hell my entire 20s. I was in therapy and I was talking about it and talking about it. I was sick. I had all kinds of health issues. If you could believe it, my face was caked in cystic acne. I had horrible gut issues. I had insomnia for
Wow.
like 10 years. I
Oh,
suffered. And
that's so hard.
I mean, I tried to deal with my pain in all the unhealthy ways, but it wasn't until I started doing energy work and
Yep.
some more like hypnotherapy,
Yep. There you go.
especially the energy work. Oh my gosh,
Subconscious.
did that release so much for
Yeah.
me. And
Yes.
now I have thank
No
God,
issue.
no
I
health
know.
problems. Like I feel when people complain like, "Oh, getting older so hard." Oh no, I feel much better than I ever did then because I've released all of
You've
these things.
released it. And so I want to just say to your listeners, if you're in therapy and you've been in there for a few months and nothing is changing, like you're not growing and you don't really feel it's helping you, but you think, but like it probably is because they're the expert. What do I know? No, trust your gut.
Yeah,
Trust your gut and leave and get a new therapist. And I only get therapists that are personally recommended from people where someone will say to me, they changed my life. If
right.
someone says to me that therapist changed my life, I'm going, great, I'm happy to refer. But
Right.
unless not, as again, this is not, I'm pro therapy, but in my experience, the average therapist is mediocre at best, even though they're wonderful, well-meaning people.
Yeah,
Because
people don't
they don't
realize
know.
that.
Don't know. Like it's just they just don't know.
Not every therapist is a good therapist. Like you have to
Right.
find ones. A lot of people can be therapists and get licensed. It doesn't. A lot of the time they act almost like a hired best friend. And
Correct.
right.
You don't need some. I don't know. Some people do need that, and that's fine.
There
But
is a value in that for sure, but
correct.
sometimes people come to me. I'm sure they
Yeah.
come to you. They've been in therapy for decades, years
They
and
just go
years
to
and
chat.
years
They
and
go to
years.
chat. They
Right.
just go
And
to
they're like,
chat.
she validates my emotions. It's like, oh, that's very important. Yes, we need our emotions validated, but there's so much more to it than that. So,
That's
what
not
are
healing.
some,
Right.
no,
That's not healing.
yeah,
So when you
absolutely.
asked me before, I'll just circle back to your question that you said, how do I work? Or how do I do that? Make the subconscious become conscious.
Yeah.
So I teach people how to tune in to their bodily levels of what's going on, how to, I know it sounds weird, but talk to different parts of the body, whether it be a
Like
physical
IFS therapy.
IFS is the emotional like parts therapy. So we
Yeah.
do that. I teach a method of how people can do that with themselves. And also even just like directly, like someone comes in and says, I've got a chronic headache. I'm like, let's talk to the headache. So somatic therapy will be where you can actually have a relationship with different parts of the body. And when you do that through an embracing, accepting attitude, so already you're opening up the channels subconsciously to get information and data about what's actually going on. When we come in with hard judgment, and this is why judgment is so toxic and poisonous for us on every level. When we come in with judgment to ourselves, oh, it's so stupid. Why am I thinking that way? I shouldn't be thinking that way. And some sort of self-rejection, then you literally close the doors to growth and stay stuck. You're stuck in the swamp. That's it. So the first thing you have to do is to say, oh, I'm going to be interested and curious about what's going on. Like, oh, that's interesting. Every single thing that's going on in every single one of you guys is for a reason to give you information, feedback, and data about what's happening at a deeper level for you to grow, for you to learn, for you to become whole, it's good. And there's nothing that's bad that we can find out inside. And I think we get rid of that terminology and that languaging and that feeling of like it's bad. That now we're in a place to talk health, growth, and healing. And that makes you show up more healthy for relationships and to have a better love and a better marriage and a better, whatever it is you want,
Right.
So
You
that's
have
how
to
it works.
integrate like all the parts of yourself for
All the
sure.
parts of
People don't
yourself.
realize how much is stored within us and how it sabotages us and manifests in different ways.
It's
So,
mind-boggling. The
yeah,
body keeps the score. Good book, famous
I
book.
haven't read that yet. I hear about it. I hear it's pretty dense, so I think that's why I'm
It's
avoiding it. But I
very
will read
dense.
it. Yeah,
It's very dense, but it's probably like the go-to book for this topic.
right. So, what are some signs that someone is emotionally blocked? Like, what are some things that you've noticed? What are some patterns? What are some habits that indicate like you have some subconscious blocks, emotional blocks, you're self-sabotaging? What are the things to look for?
Patterns. Patterns are your key. So
Yeah.
if you have a pattern in your life, I keep attracting unavailable men. I
That was
keep
mine. Guilty.
I keep having guys that I won't commit to. I won't commit to, like I'm out. I keep finding people who treat me badly, disrespect. You know, I get close to someone and then all of a sudden I treat them badly, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I self-sabotage in that way. Any patterns that you've experienced that you don't like,
Yeah.
it's easy to blame out there the circumstance or the person or the guy. All men are X, all women are X, right? Very easy to do that, but I hate to say it to you again, it's a little bit you know, to the point, but like coach mode. But if you are having a pattern, you are the common denominator of that pattern. So there's nothing that you can't blame anything because you're the one generating the pattern, right? So the common denominator is you of that pattern,
Yeah.
right? If you keep attracting the same thing. So that means that that's what I call a mirror moment. And it's a mirror back to your life about what you're meant to work on. That's a mirror. That's what I was saying earlier. That is the key to look at what it is you need to look at. Now, the problem is then people go to a therapist where they do the talk therapy. The talk therapy won't help you shift if you're, let's say, scared of intimacy. So then you keep attracting an unavailable person because that was what one of your parents was like. And you keep attracting that so that you feel safe on one level because it's what you're familiar with. But deep down, you don't want that. You don't yearn for that. You yearn for something closer. But you can't do it because it's too scary because you never had it or you got hurt. And now, unless you deal with that hurt that's underneath the surface and you're not even conscious of it potentially, it's going to keep repeating because what the subconscious does is it keeps repeating so that you see the pattern so you can deal with it so that you can heal it. And if we don't take note of why that pattern's happening and we don't take note of what's happening in the body, let's say, like what happens when my first question would be someone like that is like, well, what happens when you start getting close to someone? What happens if we slow it right down in your body? What's going on in your body? Oh, I start to get like a knot in my stomach. Okay, if the knot could speak, what would it say? Right? And they'll tune into it and say like, if you were inside the knot and could speak out of the knot, what would you say? And it'd be like, get away, get out, you know? And I'll be like, oh, okay, get out because what? Like, let's speak to the knot. Get out. What would it say if you were just in the knot? No judgment, just in the knot. Get out because you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Let's ask the knot where else it got hurt.
Right.
And it'll say when I was 8. And I can't tell you for women how many times school comes up, even though we all know it's
Oh,
parents.
yeah.
School, mean girls at school,
Mean Girls. Yeah.
so formative for people's lives. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, and it
Scary.
starts young. I have one girl, I have 3 boys. With my daughter, it started at age 4, and you'll see in a few years with your daughter, the cliques, the being mean, the leaving. Boys aren't like this.
Yeah, but it happens in such an impressionable way that when you're
Yeah.
young, you really internalize, I'm not lovable because these girls don't like me. And you're giving the power to these other, it's not your fault as a kid because you're a kid, but like
Right.
we give so much power to other people to define us at that age.
I see so much friendship trauma with girls from the being left out, being made to feel like the odd man out. Yeah, it's so tough.
Yeah. So
All of it
you have
is.
to go back to that place where you were hurt and have an adult dialogue with that little girl, as if you would if she was a little girl in front of you. That's the IFS piece of, loving her. That's one piece, way to work on it. The other is the other way, which is surrendering to the feeling, which is, let's say there's part of me that's going to scared of feeling hurt. Where is the hurt in my body? Where is that hurt? If I'm scared of getting hurt, let's say it's in my heart. So I'm going to relax all around my heart and let that hurt be there. And if I'm a much bigger person in my whole being and I have a part of me that feels scared of getting hurt and I surrender to the feeling of being hurt, eventually that hurt will just process through me, and it's got nothing to do with the actual environment. It's to do with what's inside of me. So I can learn to surrender. We talked about surrendering to higher power. I also can surrender to whatever feeling or fear or hurt is in me that I'm running away from and governing my whole life to take care of the fact that I don't want to feel that again. It has enormous power, right? If you have a little piece of hurt is governing my whole life. No, what happens if I stop and tune in and go right into the center of it and say, okay, I'm going to feel hurt. And even if I feel hurt, I'm going to be okay no matter what. And I'm going to surrender internally, nothing to do with what's actually happening in the relationship, but internally in my own energetics, I'm going to say, all right, and if I feel hurt, it's okay. I'm okay no matter what, even with the hurt. And I'm going to let myself feel hurt. And if you actually just let go of the resistance of like, I can't get hurt again, I can't get hurt again, because what we resist persists. We know that, right? So if I stop resisting against the hurt just within myself, and that's again what I teach people how to do. It's a different method. And sometimes people need to build their higher sense of self, their adult sense of self, so they can do this, so other people can go straight to it. Then it will shift and process and you won't be scared of it anymore. So but it's all in the body.
It is all in the body. And what people need to realize is that once you become aware of these parts, you can see them in action. For example, with my husband, I mean, in the decade of my 20s, I was an absolute dating disaster. I don't know if you know this, but I married my high school ex-boyfriend. So we dated when we were 17, and I knew as a 17-year-old, like, this is my man. Like, this is my guy. He did not know it. He broke up with me, and we would run into each other every few years, and I was desperate to like make something happen. And I was like, okay, like now's the time. But then he would disappear off the face of the planet. Okay. We had these crazy, crazy run-ins. It was only when going back to what we talked about earlier, it was only when I completely detached and I stopped setting myself up for heartbreak here. Because every time I would get my hopes up and then I would never hear from him, I'd be like, well, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not good enough. Like, he found somebody else. Like, why doesn't he want me? What's the problem? Also, our paths were very much like, well, first they were spiritually like this, like we were in different directions, but then we were going the same direction. I'm like, what is the problem here? Then finally, I completely detached. I had this whole like summer of me, I call it, where I really focused on myself and I stopped judging myself. I never even realized it, but when you're speaking of it, I stopped judging myself. I stopped being so, and also like, I know I thought I was so old at the time. I was 29. The number 30 is looming like a dark cloud over my head. My younger brother was about to get engaged and everyone's like, well, what about you? What about you? When are you going? I'm like, you know, it was just getting to be too much. So I was like, I'm not dating. I'm just going to live for me. I'm going to focus on being my best self, blah, blah, blah. Then my husband wanted to date me again. And all these men from all corners of the earth, even though it had been a dating drought, there was nobody to date all of a sudden. And our first date was amazing. Our second date was amazing. Our third date was like a little bit, And then I noticed I started to self-sabotage. Like I noticed I started picking him apart like vultures on a carcass. Like, he's being really serious right now. Do I want someone so serious? Like, and I could see myself at the restaurant as I'm speaking this to you, sitting there and judging him, like, picking him apart. And then, but I noticed it immediately and I'm like, I'm scared. I'm really scared of getting hurt.
That's great.
And so I'm looking for reasons to reject him because I think he's going to reject me. I didn't speak this out loud. It was all internal, but that's all because I did all the work. If I was Sabrina of a few years before that, I would have just sabotaged. I would have acted crazy and made him like leave me. But because was so, I guess so like evolved, actualized, whatever the word is at that point, and I had done a lot of this work, I saw what I was doing and why.
And you liked this guy for so long, by the way. Like,
what?
You'd liked this guy for so long.
For so long. It was
so it's like, it's a big thing to sabotage such a thing if you've been liking this guy. That's such an effective self-sabotage, the picking someone to pieces, and it's such a good one for females to do. Females do this a lot. Right? Like
well, because I thought for sure he was going to leave me because that had happened with other guys that I thought I was so in love with, which again, I was never really in love before him. It was just my trauma trying to get certain types of guys to love me because then I thought it would make me feel good enough. So I'd fall for the narcissist and the emotionally unavailable one. With him, I really wanted him. But at the same time, I knew that I had that pre-existing belief that I am not good enough. No one's going to want me. Like it's, and so
I wish I could have worked with you back then.
I know, but I fought like a warrior because I was like, no. I know, I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. Right. And then eventually, as you know, I was able to communicate more openly with him and so that he could understand me and why I was the way I was sometimes. Cause I would go into an avoidant attachment. I was like anxious avoidant. I had both. I'm like disorganized attachment. And so I was able to start communicating that openly, which is another big thing for me. Like sometimes I get scared. And I know you say you're not going anywhere, but other guys have said that. And then they went somewhere, they left. And so it brings up a lot for me. And he was so loving and understanding. And I was like, you know, like, this is who I want to do life with. He's like such a good person.
I always say you want to find someone who makes you feel calm and safe like a teddy bear rather than someone who's just intensely thrilling and exciting and up and down roller coaster. Like that's always red flag for me. Red flag if someone comes to me and says that's so super intense and exciting and like up and down and no, you don't want that. You want life to be safe, calm, and you can be yourself and open and loved.
I love the way that you put it, that true love feels like home, not like Hollywood. Can you
Yeah.
expand on that a little bit? Because I think people miss this one.
Yeah, true. Like real love is like home, not Hollywood. Meaning Hollywood is that intensity up and down, that the avoidant anxious attachment is the loop of Hollywood movies. You know, with the airport scene at the end when she's about to get on the plane and she's given up, and he now starts to run back to the airport and says, "Oh my gosh, she's for me," and they have this intense moment of connection at the airport, and it says happily ever after, but it's not. What's going to happen after that is she's going to then start pulling away, and then, or he's going to start pulling away. She's going to start chasing him again. Then she's going to give up and go away, and then he's going to come back. So that's Hollywood is built on anxious avoidant attachment, and we want to look for secure, healthy attachment, and that feels like home. Like when you walk into a house and you feel safe, like that's the ideal of what a home should feel that way, right? So that's what we're looking for in your partner. And when I work with single women particularly, and I say, how do you feel when you're with him? Feels like home. I know that's good. Like I feel home. Now, the tricky thing with that is you can't know that you're home with someone else if you don't feel at home with yourself. The work that we have to do first is to feel, do you feel at home with yourself when you're by yourself? Can you just sit peacefully with yourself and feel accepting, calm, loving, without AirPods and podcasts and music and phones and all the stimulation, social media? Like, can you just sit with yourself without any stimulation and feel calm and feel accepting and feel loving? And can you just be with yourself? Like, do you enjoy being with yourself? Can you talk to yourself in a positive way? Can you see your strengths? Can you be kind to yourself? All these things are really essential to build and develop, because A, your partner's going to need it from you, and B, you have to be kind of nearly like I see it like static, like a radio, that if you've got all this junk going on inside of you, it's like static. You can't really read the signals correctly from outside of you if inside of you have all this noise going on. And we need to learn how to calm that down a little bit. Whatever works for you in doing that. For me, it was meditation, and for me, it was really, really meditation, actually. Learning how to just be with myself and deal with whatever comes up. And you can do that, though, through exercise, walking. Like, you can do it lots of ways. Yoga, Tai Chi, whatever, swimming, whatever it is for you, but just to be with yourself in your own rhythm. And then when you feel relatively at home with yourself, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you can be calm and quiet with yourself, then you can actually recognize, does someone else support this and enhance this in me? Or do they make me feel insecure and anxious and up and down and intense?
Do you know what I realized recently? Like, it's amazing to think that once upon a time, if you went to the bank and you had to stand on the line, you were just there with your thoughts. Like, there were no smartphones. You were not scrolling on Instagram while you're waiting for your turn, or the grocery store, or any errand, any annoying errand you had to run. Like, nowadays, okay, I'm standing online, scroll. We're always there, but we're never just in our own heads, ever. Like, we're
even in the bathroom.
Right.
Even in the shower.
Exactly. Like, I have a speaker system in my bathroom. I don't use it, but like,
I think someone was telling me the other day they were having a work meeting in the shower with the Zoom with the camera off, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
We are never with ourselves. There is such a disconnect. And I have clients now where the biggest thing we're working on is you have to just be alone. You have to be alone. And they can't. They're like, they freak out. They want to jump out of their own skin. They're like, no, I need to go out and I need to be around people. They can't face themselves.
Correct. That's very, very difficult to be in a relationship if you can't face yourself.
Right. And they want a relationship because it's an escape from yourself. And that's what people
Correct. So that's just a recipe for codependence. And
absolutely.
And toxic stuff. And it can't work. It can't work.
No, it can't. So I want to ask you also about making the right choice, because one thing I see a lot is women don't trust themselves to pick the right partner, and they're so scared of choosing wrong. How do you know that you're making the right choice? And did you ever have moments of like, am I making it? Or were you like 100% like, this is...
With my husband, no, I knew, but I'd done a lot of work. I was 44. I mean, I'd done a lot of work. In my 20s, I would have for sure had more difficulty. So self-trust ties into what we're talking about, because again, our whole being is an instrument of feedback, right? Our whole being, our feelings, our sensations, our thoughts, who we are is like an instrument that's meant to walk through life and gather data and feedback, and then give you data and feedback. And if you are just full of other stuff, if you're full of judgment and you're full of like lack of acceptance and you have to escape yourself and you're full of all that static and that noise, you can't read the instrument correctly. So that's why self-trust is hard, because I don't even know what I think and feel. So how on earth am I meant to now interpret what I think and feel about this person, because I don't even know myself, right? So that the first step is learning that. But I would also say, like a technique I walk people through is that we have many faculties that give us different data, like, so to speak, meaning it's not just a head decision who to be with, and it's not just a heart decision who to be with. They're very different faculties. And in the dating that I deal with, we do the head first. The logic and the head has to come first. Does this make sense on paper? Are our values aligned? Are we going in the right direction? Is there enough synergy here between us on a logical level, but for me to actually let my heart get involved, which I think is actually very self-protective for the heart. Like, meaning, once you jump in with the heart, like you walk into a party and you see a cute person and you walk up to them and you start getting involved with them emotionally and like really just jumping into some sort of relationship, you've had no chance to step back and say, wait, does this make sense? Right? And then you can get into long-term entanglements where you can't get out of them. And by that point, you've bonded. And it's very hard to debond or unbond or whatever the word is, right? Because you have the oxytocin. Unmatched.
Detached. I'm like, that's like been like my keyword these days. Detached.
Detached. It's very hard because your oxytocin has now bonded you, and you have that whole bonding agent, and especially once you're physical. So the mind assesses things differently. The mind is detached from emotion. It's logical. Does this make logical sense? Are our values aligned? Do we have the same goals or similar goals? Are we going in the same direction in life? Do I like his character or her character? Do we communicate well? Am I attracted? Like, there's a whole lot of stuff that we go through. Does it make sense? And then, can I open my heart to this person? Can I receive love? Do I want to receive love? Am I passionate? Am I wanting to expand, with this person? Do I feel like warm around this person? Do I feel like I can be myself? And then we have the gut, which is about safety, stability, solidity. Like, do I feel safe? Do I feel stable? Do I feel secure around this person? And these are three, mind, heart, gut, three different faculties, let's say, as examples of different feedback it gives us. And so what I'll take people through as an exercise where they tune into their mind with the person in mind. Does it make sense? Yes or no? Boom. Does the mind will give you a yes or no straight away. And if it's a no, we ask the second follow-up question: what would it take to get this to be a yes, purely with the mind? Right? And then we get answers, amazing answers from that. Then you tune in and take your attention to the heart. And we separate from the mind, just the heart. Take your attention to the heart, put your hand on your heart, take your attention behind your hand. And you ask your heart like it's another person, like you're talking to another person. Talking to the heart, which is about connection, receiving love, giving love, passion, only about that realm. And say, does this make sense to the heart to be with this person? And the heart will give you a yes or a no straight away. Wow. And if it gives you a no, or I'm not sure, you say, no problem. Thank you so much for telling me, right? It's not bad. Thank you so much for telling me. What would you need, heart? What would you need to give me a yes with this person? Mm-hmm. And it will tell you if you just let yourself be open and receptive in that moment with your attention on the heart, it will tell you, it will say, he needs to be more sensitive, or he needs to be more emotionally there for me, or he needs to be, whatever it is, right? I'm just thinking of the last woman I did this with, and that's what she said. Great. Okay. Is that something you could talk to him about? Is that something, how would you know if he was more there for you? He would do this, this, and this. So now you're starting to get very, very, very specific things that your heart needs to see and feel and experience for it to say yes to this person. Other times the heart would say, no, it's not. It's just who he is. It's just who he is. Nothing's going to change. If that's the case, then it's a deal breaker. And you know for sure that this guy can't change in a specific area. If the heart says, no, it's who he is, I don't trust him, I don't want this. And then you do the same thing to the gut, right? Do you feel safe, secure, and stable around this guy? Yes or no? Or with this guy? Yes or no? If it's a yes, great. If it's a no, what would it take to feel secure, stable? And it will tell you. He needs to get a stable job. He needs to have a plan for the future. He needs to earn more money. He needs to, whatever it is that you need, it will tell you. And then it's not that that's a no. That's the stuff you go and have conversations about. And you go and have the focused, purposeful conversations about things to move the relationship forward, about things that really matter to you deep down. And that's how you trust yourself.
Wow. That's so interesting. I love that. That definitely goes way beyond make your must-haves, make your deal breakers, which I think is also important, but you really need to get to the psychology of it, especially because so many women either are getting the ick from these perfectly good guys for no reason, or they're going after people. Yeah.
Or the subconscious through the heart, right? So you could make your lists all from your head, And it's all from your head, and that's great for the head. But now what about the heart and the gut? Because that's what, remember I said before, your conscious mind can say one thing and the subconscious is like, I feel completely different. My feelings are very different to my head. And that's why we go out in relationships and you have the inner conflict. My head wants this and my whole reaction emotionally is doing something different. And I don't know why I'm at odds with myself. And I don't want this consciously, but I can't help it. Why? Because it's at the subconscious. So you have to learn how to tune into your own subconscious. We do that through the body. Like I gave you this exercise right now. That's very easy, right? But you have to be able to be calm enough with yourself to be able to just hear the answer from the heart and from the gut if you focus in with your attention, which I find probably 70 to 80% of people can do that exercise, even if they're not able to be totally calm with themselves. They really can if they focus in their attention and they just sit with themselves, and I coach them a little bit how to do it. Most people can access that wisdom.
Yeah, and I think that people are surprised that they can do it. That
Yes.
so many of the answers live within us. We just have to create the space to.
They don't know
hear.
how to create the space. Correct.
Right?
That's
Well, it's
exactly right.
hard. We live in such a noisy world.
Yes.
Something I also want to ask you about, like just going back to what we were talking about earlier with dating in the hamster wheel, I feel like because you are kind of more of a very strong, very successful alpha type of woman, and this was my experience, so I wonder if it was yours. Did you have a lot of people telling you you're too much, men are going to be
Yes.
too intimidated, you need to lean more into your feminine? I'm just curious to hear you speak on that and on just feminine energy in general, because I get asked about feminine. No one was ever talking about this a few years ago. And now all women are so scared that to be too in their masculine. And on the one hand, women are told lean in, be successful. And that's more masculine traits. But then they're like, oh, but no man is ever going to want to marry you if you're like this. So I'm curious to hear your experience of this.
Yes. No man's ever going to marry you. My man just walked in the room right now. And
There, that's the answer.
did you want to marry me? Was I too alpha for you?
You're a beautiful female.
I'm a beautiful female, he said. Okay, couple things. Number one, you don't have to change who you are. That's crazy. Meaning you can't, right? I can't change my general makeup, right? So people were telling me all the time, stop being too successful, step back from the career. Oh my God, insane. Don't write the book. I mean, I didn't write the book because for other reasons, but like, don't write. I was going to write a book.
Oh, you need to write the book, Jackie. Now is the time.
I know, but it's more like, well, what do I write the book on? I have a couple of ideas, but whatever. So what's the problem? Masculine and feminine exist within us, within all of us. It's normal, it's healthy, right? If you have a higher dose of masculine and you're very successful in life, kudos to you, awesome. It's not about that. It's about learning how to be okay with the feminine side of you, which is not that side of you, because you have that too. Everyone has that too, right?
Right,
So
yeah.
learning to accept that side of you and let it come out, which most alpha women don't have a lot of time for, so they don't do it. That me included.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I really consciously, when I was single, at least tried to experiment and play with that side by hanging out with cute kids, just learning to cook, be creative, like doing different things, nurturing, like different things that would evoke that feminine energy, because it's important, because it's part of who you are, right? That's really, really important. Now, when you talk about relationship, if you have an alpha woman being like an alpha with a man who is an alpha, so there's not a lot of room there. So that's why it doesn't really work, is because a man doesn't want to have a partner, like like a man doesn't want to have a partner, and in that way, and a man feels good, a healthy man, let's say, feels good when they get to be a man.
Yeah.
And so it's not about not being you. It's about learning to access a different part of you when you're with your man, and learning how to let yourself drop into the feminine around your man, which feels vulnerable, which many alpha women don't want to do. And often alpha women don't want to do that because we have some sort of wounding, and that alpha is a bit of a protective mechanism. And so you want to find a guy, that's why, coming back to your love feels like home, not Hollywood, you want to find a guy that makes you feel at home and feel safe emotionally, so you can soften into the feminine. And that's, I got a teddy bear. I mean, I
also have a teddy bear. Yeah.
I know, we have teddy bears, right?
We have teddy bears.
Unconditional loving teddy bears who are great men, but they are loving and warm, so it allows us to soften. And, you know, if I'm in my mode and my husband comes up and gives me a hug and just says, I love you, I will soften like a pussycat, like I just totally soften. And he's laughing right now. And right, like it, but that's the truth. So you want a teddy bear to help us soften. And but in the meantime, if you're not in that relationship, I would say find other ways in your life where you can access your feminine energy. And the feminine is about being in the here and now. It's about process. It's about nurturing. It's about creativity. It's about receiving, reception.
Receiving's a big one.
Receiving. So how do you receive even a compliment? Can you even receive it? Can you let it in? Can you let it feel good? Can you let yourself receive goodness from other people? Whether even girlfriend, like being like a gift or a compliment, anything. Can you let yourself receive, and can you let yourself soften?
Right.
And if you're an alpha woman, you need the alpha at work to be successful, which is great. You don't, it's not about minimizing that. It's about expanding yourself, expanding who you are. And I think that's an important thing to work on when you're single, and then when you're in a relationship, it's important to just be conscious of that and step back to allow space for your partner to be there.
Yeah, because a man doesn't want to feel like I am never going to be enough for this woman. I am always going to be coming up short. She's just so alpha. Like, he needs to feel like he can give to you and that you can receive what it is he has to give. Okay, let's do a few rapid fire questions and then we'll call it, because I know you have a newborn baby. Okay, first is, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of dating advice, what would it be?
If I could go back and give myself one piece of dating advice, what would it be? That's a hard one. There's so many things running through my mind right now. You don't need a husband to feel worthy, because that's often the problem.
Right.
We
Yeah.
think you need a marriage or a husband or a partner to be worthy, to feel good enough, to feel, and I, on some level, was associating those two. So I would say you don't need that. You're good enough as you are. You're lovable and worthy as you are. Now let's look for what type of partner you want, but not, because that shouldn't define you. It shouldn't be connected in at all into your sense of self-worth or self.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what is one myth about love and relationships you wish more women would stop believing?
What is one thing about love and relationships? Stop believing
Yeah.
that there's no good guys out there, or there's no good people out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That if you're not getting good people, it's because there's something in you allowing that and tolerating it. There are good guys out there. There are good women out there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is one daily practice women can start today to shift their energy and become more open to love?
Compassionate curiosity. Whatever's going on in you is there for a reason. It's not bad. It's not wrong. You want to be curious about it and find out more about it and ask it for more information.
I love it. Amazing. Thank you so much, Jackie. This was
you.
so inspiring. I think I only got through half my questions, so we might have to do a part 2 at some point.
Sure. Love
And
it.
everyone listening, make sure to like, rate, leave a comment, subscribe. It really helps us out. And thank you so much.
Thank you.